welcome to the Mindset Michelle TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us and can't wait for yet another episode where we have another incredible guest on today's show. Hello, Kim, our guest for today. Hello.
Hello.
It's so lovely having you on the show. For those that aren't aware of her, Professor Kim Cornish is a highly distinguished neuroscientist, having worked in many different countries across the world and globally. And she is very well known for her work with ADHD, children, and throughout that neuroscience space. She's also now involved with the Turner Institute for Brain and Mental Health, and has so many more different awards and accolades. But I'll let Kim tell us about how did you come to be doing what you're doing, and what is it that fascinates you about your life path?
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and it's really great to be here. So to start from the very beginning, I was born in the northwest of England in Manchester, and even after 30 plus years of being outside of Manchester, my accent has never gone. And I was born in a small town called Bury, to a very working class family. I've got two sisters and my mum and dad. I've got a twin sister actually, and I was the first one of my family to go to university, and I think from a very young age I really wanted to expand beyond exactly where I lived and to actually move into other parts of the UK. What I didn't realise is that journey would start in Manchester, go to London, then go to Montreal, and then finally come back here or come to Melbourne. So I went to university, and then from university I went to study for a PhD at the University of London, which was a fantastic experience. For those of you who are in the mid-50s, that would have been the early 80s, and it was an absolute fantastic place to be and a time to be. And for me, I happened to come upon two main things in my life. First is that I found the love of my life, who 32 years later is still married to me, which is a godsend. The only one in my family that is actually married for that long as well. And I also found what would be the love of my career, which is researching and helping to intervene in children who have got different developmental delays and different reasons for those developmental delays. And we know a lot more than we do 30 years ago. So children with autism, children with Down syndrome, children with ADHD, and there's quite a list to that. And that took me from London to the University of Nottingham to do some research. And it was at that point, it was such a beautiful time in history to be. The human genome had just was beginning to be finalized. You know, as a developmentalist, I was able to knock on the doors of geneticists and knock on the doors of psychiatrists, and we were able to do some incredible work that helped us begin the journey of understanding how genes can really impact our behaviors, but also how that translates to families and to teachers so that children can live their best lives. And so from there, I got an opportunity to move to Montreal in Canada, and that was an incredible opportunity. I had two young children by that stage, 5 and 7, Holly and Luke, and they went straight into French-speaking schools. And as you can imagine, for those of you who are British, we were never meant to really speak bilingual. And so my children went into French schools, did their very best in those French schools, and we had a lovely time in Montreal, and then established my lab there, established my career there again. So this is the second time my life had been changed. And from there, we moved over to Australia at that point in my early 40s to take up more of a leadership role in heading up a school of psychology and psychiatry at that time. And so I never thought I would be kind of like a globetrotter in all of this. I never thought my life, and in fact, one of the things my husband said when we were first married is, I'll follow you anywhere, but I don't want to stay in London. And I do not think that meant Melbourne, Montreal, and up north in Nottingham. So it's been a really interesting pathway with a lot of journeys in there.
I really hear that, and thank you, Kim. It's such a wonderful, wonderful and wide expanse of different places that you have led and lived, and where your career has kind of taken you. And I really hear that enthusiasm and excitement for what the world was like in the 80s, where you're able to still walk up to the genomes of geneticists, all of the different people.
Yeah.
And just have those conversations, and that, you know, Wild West kind of feeling, where it was the beginning of all of those days and those conversations. With such an interesting background around different people, different countries, and different angles coming at that neuroscience of development, especially for children, what do you think then? You've described beautifully the two loves of your life, but what do you think then success now means to you?
I think when I was reflecting on this, I think success is something that grows with time. I think as a academic, and also as a mother, and as a wife and a sister, success changes along your life course. I mean, success in my 20s and 30s was all about me. It was about me establishing my career. It was about me being internationally recognized as a leader in my field. It was about, you know, me being that competitor that would compete for, you know, an elite range of grants, and you're establishing a network internationally. So it meant about me leaving my home to go and travel all over the world, to go to conferences, to network. And it was that, to me, was my success. It was measured by the number of grants, the number of papers, the number of people that mentioned me in their talks and so on. Any academic watching today will know exactly what I mean by that. And then slowly success changes, doesn't it? It changes in a different way as you enter different roles. So in my 40s, and most certainly now in my 50s, it means something really different. For me, success is not so much being on the elite end of getting those great grants and getting those great papers. Those are still nice to have, but they kind of like lose their meaning in the context of, for me anyway, success is how I look after my team, how I give myself to others so that they can rise, how my colleagues talk to me and respect me, how I respect them, and how I feel that I can lift, in particular, women up, so that they can see that you can have that success. And it doesn't mean trampling on anybody. It doesn't mean, you know, being the first all the time to do that. It doesn't mean you know, being the most disliked person in your department or school, so you can then move up. It, to me, success is having my really young students, you know, say to me, being in your team, in your lab, has made a big difference. Having my junior academic staff get promoted to associate professors, to full professors, having that, for me, is what success means today. And in terms of my personal life, both my children are all grown up now. They will definitely call themselves Australian citizens. And for me, success as a mum is watching them become these really kind, lovely people who are happy.
And happy, of course. And I really love how you so beautifully described and reflected there on, at different times and at different ages, success could mean different things. And some of the people we've had on the show have definitely, you know, if they're younger, then it's kind of having those successes and those career progressions outwardly that are very important. And then as people age, it tends to be more about, how am I giving back? How am I supporting others? The type of legacy that we're leaving. So it's a beautiful definition of success. And I guess with that definition of how to support others and how to create that pathway for others to go through similar sorts of life journeys as yourself, successful life journeys, that's the next part of the questions around what sort of tips or suggestions would you give to people to help them? Obviously, for yourself, moving countries, starting with different departments, building new teams, you've had to go through, you know, the ups and downs of all of those changes. So what sort of tips and suggestions would you give to people to create that mindset to be able to go through that?
Yeah, so for me, and this has been so great, Michelle, to reflect on, is the kind of mindset this needs. And one of the key things that I've really found for me that has actually created that mindset is, firstly, it's to be courageous. It's to actually be bold enough to do and go into be comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's taking a step and believing in yourself that you can actually do that. And if you fail, if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you made that first step, and then the next, and then the next after that. So when you actually get to that goal, you've succeeded. But you've never stopped. So I'd like to give an example. I thought rather than give an example of my academic life, I'd like to give an example of my martial arts life.
Wonderful.
So at the age of 50, I decided to join a martial arts dojo near to where I live in Oakley, in Clayton in Melbourne. And I'd always loved to box. So I used to box when I was in Montreal. I went to a boxing gym there. And I kind of as I went through into my 40s, kind of let that go, as I think a lot of women do, let a lot of things go. And then it takes a reaction to kind of or something to jumpstart something back again. And I decided 50 was the age to do this. So I stepped into this dojo. First class, I do two martial arts. I do Kempo karate and I do kickboxing, but I started off in kickboxing. And I remember going in that first day into that studio, into the dojo, sorry, and all around me were people that were, firstly, a lot taller than I was, firstly, that seemed a lot fitter than I was, and all of them had the full gear on, so the shin guards, the gloves, and I thought they were brilliant. And then there was me. And I just wanted to turn away and run. And I wanted to do that for about 6 months. And I, one day, fell in love with it. And what it allowed me to do is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. You know, take yourself into a mindset where if you fall down, in my case, how many times I've fallen down on the mats, how many times I've been taken down on the mats and it's hurt. How many times have I kind of thinking, oh my God, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that, to actually do it. But I persevered. And I really felt that for me, never giving up, never being scared to fail, you know, to be kind to yourself and to be kind to the people around you, and to really accept people's advice and expertise, whether they are, you know, younger than you are, whether they are not as qualified as you are, whether they are way above who you are. It's to take people's advice and to really be grateful for that and to really utilize it. So for me, 6 years later in karate, nearly 6 years later in karate and in kickboxing, I'm on my way to black in both. And I absolutely, you know, love what I do in there. And it has changed me. It has made me, I think it's made me a better person. It's made me more kind of understanding of people when things go wrong. And it's carrying on that kind of that martial arts mindset that you take one step at a time and you do so with courage. Be bold. And if you fail, you just get yourself off that mat and you get up again.
What an absolutely fabulous example. Thank you so much, Kim. I think martial arts and what you've described about going back to it when you got to your 50s and building slowly, that one step at a time. But the thing I love the most that you said was about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, and having moved countries and started your career in a number of different locations, that being comfortable with the uncomfortable, I think, is really, really important. And it also reminded me, funnily enough, of when I did some aerial yoga, where you have a parachute hanging from the ceiling, and
Wow.
there was a 15-year-old yoga instructor, and as you can imagine, everybody else in the room was very fit and very healthy, and there was me, and I managed to do a downward dog in the upside down in this parachute, and for me that was, that was like winning an Olympic gold medal. So,
well, the first time in kickboxing that I could actually kick to somebody's head, I just thought I'd won the entire lottery at that point in my life. It was the most amazing event. And if any of my instructors could hear this now, they would completely understand, because the whole class had to stop while I showed everybody I could now kick to the head.
I love it. I love it. And it's that sort of, it's the courage to be uncomfortable. It's also that recognition that what is a major achievement for ourselves or for yourself in that may not be, being a 10th Dan within 2 years or whatever. It is actually about celebrating those milestones, again, those minor, those small steps. And I think for people watching, that's one of the key messages from today's show, about having a go, having a go at things, feeling that fear, but having the courage to keep going and keep doing it anyway. Is there another big example or tip that you would like to share with people?
Yeah, I would. For me, alongside all of having that martial arts mindset, for me, it's particularly in the last few years, is showing gratitude. It is absolutely showing gratitude in how you walk your life. How you, for me, even the simplest things of, I catch public transport into work. And so I catch the bus in, and every time I'm on the bus and come off the bus, I say thank you and have a great day. And I try and show how grateful I am. When I wake up in the morning, I wake up and I feel really happy and grateful to be alive. I feel grateful that I've got a strong, fit body in this 55-year-old body, and even more grateful that I could not care less that it's not a size 10 anymore. So you kind of, this whole gratitude of like being grateful for what you have, for the friends you have, for the family you have, and the fact that I have a job, the fact that I have a lovely martial arts community, I have a lovely network of colleagues, and a beautiful family. All those things for me make my mindset for success. If showing gratitude is something that gives me a lot of joy in my life.
And you're so correct. Having that gratitude is such a powerful, powerful tool for creating that successful mindset. It does things like resonate. So you start to resonate with that joy and that gratitude. And I love how you were describing about waking up in the morning and being grateful for things. Many people, and I myself can get caught up in it as well, of focusing too much on what you may not have or what you need to do or what you this, that, fill in the blank. But having that mindset where you actually wake up and go, oh, I'm grateful that, it's a sunny day here, or I'm grateful that I'm living somewhere where we can have free elections, or all of these small things that you don't necessarily recognise. And I love your one about thanking the bus driver, because the bus drivers or tram drivers or whoever, thanking them for recognising them, that they're not just somebody that's sitting there, but thanking them as a human being. All of those, like you were saying, with the martial arts, these small little steps to keep building those habits and those patterns mean that you're creating that gratitude as an everyday habit for yourself.
Yes, definitely. I mean, for me, it should be in every part of your life. When you go into a restaurant, hospitality is, you should be able to go there, be really grateful for what you got, that somebody's serving your food, and I'm not having to cook it at home. You've got, and I think if you wake up and you start with that kind of like mindset, and for me, my mindset starts with, I want people around me to be happy. I want them to see that, being grateful for things around you can really have a positive impact on your home life, on your friendship circles, in the workplace. And I think there's never been a time as there is now in the last years and years, where showing gratitude is something that makes a huge difference to the people you love and the people you work with.
I couldn't agree more. With people feeling a little bit more run down or overwhelmed, etc., showing gratitude for every little thing, and showing that you have noticed that somebody's making an effort or doing something that may have taken them out of their comfort zone a little way, I think is really, really important. With where you are now with your career and with grown-up children and being in that more elder states lady, even though you're still very, very young. What I was hearing was with the work that you do and the leadership, I guess I'm thinking elder statesperson or states lady in terms of the leadership role that you now play with the Turner Institute and everything. What do you think are things, given that, again, you will be making some difficult decisions at times and difficult choices, I think is probably a better way of saying it. You are, as a senior leader, making those choices. What sorts of things do you do to keep creating that successful mindset for yourself?
I surround myself by people that I love to be around. Sometimes you're around colleagues and you have no choice, you're around them and they aren't. They would not normally be people you would choose to be with. But what I decided a long time ago, and I don't know whether this is something that you go to as you age into your 50s or you get to a certain stage in your career, is that I surround myself by people I love to be around. And if they don't love to be around me, then there's the door. I am at that stage in my life where you kind of like want to be in a place where if you've got tight deadlines, you're with people that can really work with you and you can work with them. So I try and surround myself, be it either my students, be it my colleagues, or be it my friends, just being around people that have a positive impact on you. So I try and stay away from toxicity. So I try for those people that are just so negative and so miserable about life, they have no room in my life unless I really do have to work with them, which I don't. So for me, that is something that really keeps me focused on success.
I think that's a wonderful way of framing it as well, because it starts with that intent or intention. So that intention around surrounding yourself with people that you love to be around then creates, again, that momentum that you're creating opportunities for people that want to be around you, in the same way that not everybody's cup of tea. So it's okay as well for people not to be in that world. They'll find another world that suits them. But I think that's a lovely way of phrasing and framing the idea around being with a team of people that, as you so beautifully put, when you're actually really stressed and busy and you've got deadlines, you actually still enjoy working with those people through those stressful periods. Wonderful. If we were to look at then ways of contacting you, I know that you're associated with a number of different things, but what's the best way of reaching out to you, Kim?
LinkedIn, and also Twitter, or even my email at kim.cornish@monash.edu.
Fabulous. And one of my favourite questions to people is actually around, if you were to give some advice to your younger self, and especially I can hear that you've been doing some reflection before coming on the show today. If you were to give some advice to your younger self, what might that advice be?
Right, so I have found this a very interesting question to address, Michelle, and because it's something I had never thought about before, but it's an obvious one for me. I would say to my younger self, quite sternly, I'd like to say as well, that be present. Be present in your life. In your earlier self, I look back at me post-university and the whole world is there in front of you. And for my generation in the 80s, it was very much you can do what you want to do, just go for it. That's fine. But if you are not present in that, and I wasn't for some of it, when you get accolades and when you get grants in your early 20s, in your early 30s, and I just pushed them to one side, and I was just so busy moving on to the next goal to get my career successful. What did I have to do next? Instead of enjoying that first grant that I got from the Wellcome Trust, that made a huge impact. That first paper I got published, that first time, I found out I was pregnant, the first time that my children, went to school and did all of that. And while I was there, often in my head, and clearly physically I was there, I don't think I appreciated that enough. And I would say to my younger self in the 20s and into their early 30s, just love your life. Just take a moment to enjoy the things that come upon you and are happy places and happy things, and be present and enjoy it. That's what I would say to me.
What a wonderful sentiment again. I really hear you, Kim. As being the first person in my family to go to university, I really recognise that at those younger stages, you can be so busy and so caught up with getting through things that you're not really as present as, I guess, when you get older.
You're so busy trying to move along the track so quickly that you can kind of you can do that, but I think also you need to take your moments to reflect of, the really good things that happen along the way, and don't let the negatives define it. Let those positives define it, and realize that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have people that can't stand you, that just are so envious of you. Put that in scale of life, doesn't matter. Just enjoy the positive things that happen. I would do that.
What a wonderful thing. And I'll just add to that, because also what I'm hearing there is about where you place your focus, because whatever age you're going to have good and bad, and defining that differently at different times as well, perhaps, but focusing on where you have been successful, and so being present to the success. I know many people, especially women I've spoken to, they don't necessarily always hear when they're successful or hear compliments, and it can take many years for them. So I love this angle that you're saying of being present. So being present when people are complimenting you, giving you grants, giving you awards. That's all really fabulous stuff. Well, Kim, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. I can't thank you enough for coming on and for sharing your incredible wisdom. Is there any final words that you would love to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd love to say thank you, because I've actually had a few days now to self-reflect, and I'm actually leaving this interview feeling really quite empowered. But I would just say to everybody out there, whatever age, whatever they are, that life is too precious and it's too short to not enjoy every moment of it that you can, and to embrace the difficulties, but to also really embrace those really great times as well.
What wonderful, wonderful words of wisdom. And thank you again so much, Kim. It's been an absolute honour and pleasure having you on the show today.
Me too, for you. Thank you.
You've been wonderful. So to everybody watching, thank you again for coming on the show, and all of your wonderful messages and comments that we receive. It really helps us to keep feeling like, yes, the show is making a huge difference. But for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.